Welcome to episode 210 of Inside the SCCA. I'm Brian Bielanski. Tonight's show is one that I've been looking forward to for a while. We set this up, it must have been a month and a half ago. And back when we set it up originally, my guest had all the time in the world to come and talk to us at the regular time. And then when I talked to her today, she's like, oh my gosh, I'm flying to a test. Which is very apropos because the name of the show this week is Racing Around the World. And my guest is Nicole Havrda from British Columbia, if I remember correctly. Am I right? You still with me?
Yeah, sorry, yeah. I'm from Vancouver, actually, so
Yep.
all the way on the west.
All the way on the west coast of Canada. And I first met you at Buttonwillow, and you were racing with the Formula 3, right? Or was it an F4 car? I don't remember.
Yeah, it was the Formula 3 car.
That's right. And you were down racing with us on one of our regional or divisional race weekends, and fast as can be, and caught my eye, and I was like, I gotta get this gal on the show, and we talked, had a great time. And then you since then have been racing all over the world, and that's kind of what we wanted to talk about. So for those who might not have seen the first show, refresh our memories just a little bit. How did you get started doing all of this? How did you get interested in racing?
Yeah, so honestly, I was never into racing really. Like when I was young, a lot of people are like, oh, you must have been like a fan of Formula One or something. But I actually wanted to be an Olympic swimmer.
Okay.
So I was very focused on that since I was young. And then all of a sudden, my dad took me to Formula One race. I never wanted to go though. We went for a road trip to Europe. My dad just put that on there. That we'll just go see a Formula One race. And I just fell in love with it right away. I think it's just the sound and, the adrenaline. Swimming never really gave me any adrenaline. So just like seeing the cars go by, I don't know, it gave me that kind of like tingle. And that's where I fell in love with it, and then got into go-karting and then went on from there.
That's pretty cool. So Nicole is in an airport lounge getting ready to go to a test. So the audio quality isn't perfect, and I just want to let everyone know that I know that, so you don't have to get in the chat and say, hey, the audio's not great. But we're gonna go do this anyway because she's a busy person, got a lot of stuff going on, and she's made the time to be here with us. So we're gonna go for it. But it is good enough, so we're gonna get going. So, all right. Since that time, you have been all over the place. I remember the coolest thing the last time we talked is you had done a documentary with Lewis Hamilton, and we had talked about all of that, and you were starting to get ready to go. And since then, you did a season of the India Racing League, right?
Yeah, I actually did 2 seasons. So that year and then the next year. But yeah, I did the Indian Racing League. I did the first season, which was like the first one they ever did, which was really, really cool. They took like the best drivers from around the world. So like we had drivers from Le Mans and then the Daytona 24 Hours and stuff that actually came there to race. And it's pretty weird for me because I was just getting into cars and I didn't really know much. I was kind of new to it all. So it was like kind of like all my learning was actually done there.
So with all of those top level drivers, how did you get the invite to go and do that?
It was so random. We honestly thought it was a scam because we saw the email and we were like, that's kind of weird, they'll pay for it all. Like in racing, you don't really see that they'll pay for it all. Like no teams will really pay for everything, like even your flying. So we were like, holy cow, this must be a scam or something. So it kind of went about that. Then we had a bunch of phone calls trying to figure it out. And, getting a visa to go to India was the hardest part. Like it took forever. Like we were down to our last day where like they were going to give us our visa back, like our passports and stuff. And we were down to our last day until we flew out. So it was like very stressful and all that stuff.
So what made it specifically difficult for India? Was it because you were going to work, or was it because it wasn't going to be on a tourist visa, right?
Yeah, it was a tourist visa. I
Okay,
wasn't working there. So I was just going by tourist because I wasn't making money, so
got
I
it.
couldn't say I was making money. Um, but it took forever. I don't know what it was with the embassy here, but it just, I don't know, it's just a whole thing. And then thank goodness I have two passports. So I have a European one since I'm half European. So that one saved me because I was also like in the middle of that time, I gave in my Canadian passport to put the visa in. And then I was traveling to America still with my European passport. So it was it was a lot.
Yeah, that's crazy. So what's it like racing in India?
Interesting. uh, Honestly, I tell everyone that I feel like they should experience like the country like once in a lifetime at least because it's so crazy.
Right.
Like it's so different than what we live in, and like seeing like you're never alone. Like you're always like really close to someone, or there's always someone there because there's so many people in that country. But it was really cool, like seeing their tracks and how everything is like taken care of. And, it's very, I don't know, in a way, it kind of felt like a free world because like you could honestly just drive on the track whenever you wanted. Like here, you really have to like book certain times and it takes forever. It's really, really expensive here. There, it's a little cheaper and more like it's just different. And the fans are crazy.
Yeah.
They're so interested in motorsports and stuff. It was really, really cool.
So were there many women drivers in that series?
Yeah, so they actually had there were seven teams with two drivers each,
Okay.
and there was one driver in each team. So there are two drivers, two cars, four drivers in each team. Um, and there was one girl in each team.
Got it.
So there's seven of us.
Very cool. Very cool. Um,
Yeah.
and the culture over there. What did you get a chance to experience? How long were you over there the first year?
Oh my gosh, we were there for I was there with my dad for 5 weeks straight.
Okay.
Uh, it was we did a lot of touristy stuff. So we
Cool.
saw like all the I just lost the words for it, but all their like churches and stuff.
The
They're
mosques.
not called yeah, the mosques and stuff. Those things are really cool. They're like all marble. You have to take your shoes off.
Mm.
It is very like clean and it's kept very cool. Like and then like all the like the center of the towns and stuff. So we were actually in the smaller towns and they were very like cool to see.
So you mentioned that you were fairly new to cars when you started to do the series. You go over there with all of these racers who have been at Le Mans, the 24 Hours of Daytona. What was the learning curve like? Did your team have a coach for you? How did you adapt to all of that?
Yeah, so the first year I brought my own coach because I was kind of just like new to it all and he wanted to help me and stuff. So he came with us and then the second year I actually just went alone with my dad because I kind of already knew like the gist of it and I was already driving on those tracks in my car. So I kind of just went there the second year just alone with my dad. And also for costs, it's quite expensive to pay for someone else to come there
Right.
and stay there for the 5 weeks, right? It's pretty pricey.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, not it was interesting to see because people actually didn't some people brought coaches with them and some people didn't. So it was interesting to see. Like obviously the guys that race like Le Mans and stuff, they don't need to bring a coach. But others obviously do.
Right. Now I know you said you were young with cars, but I'd seen you drive before that, and you're being humble because you came into cars and you were quick right away. Now, obviously, there's experience and learning racecraft and all that kind of stuff. How quickly did you get fast in those cars?
It was honestly like getting, let's start with like Formula 3 because that was my first car. Basically, I've driven in like for a long time because like I got into Formula 4. I did a little testing, like one or two tests, and then I did a GT4 race, which was just out of the blue because it was for a documentary that I did. Um, but then like getting into the Formula 3 car, which is like very different and a lot to get used to because it's so much power and just a different driving from like go-karts and stuff. So it took a while. Like I spent a year, like a development year, just testing and stuff in the Formula 3 car, and then also some races, just to get used to it. But it was a lot. It took a lot to learn, and then getting into new cars and like different cars, like the Indian and then oh my gosh, I just lost my words. In the Indian Racing League, there are different cars, so like learning a different type of car is quite a lot to get like used to. Like you kind of just have to jump in it and just like put all of what you learn into it. Even though it's a different car, like it handles differently. You still have to like kind of input what you put into your toolbox, basically.
So was it 5 weeks in different cars each week, or how did that work out?
No, no, it's the same car the whole time, and the
Okay.
same car the second year as well.
Okay. And what would you compare that to that we would know, that type of car?
Well, it was an open cockpit but closed wheels, so like an LMP3,
Okay.
basically.
All right.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And so you had the same car in both years. How did you do in the series the first year and the second year? What was your where did you end up in the championship?
Well, the first year was pretty good, I'd say. I got 11th out of
Okay.
30 something because a lot of drivers came and went as
Right.
well. So out of 30 drivers, I got 11th. We did experience both years, which was sad, like mechanical problems. Like the first year, we went to the street circuit that Formula E races at
Uh-huh.
in India, and we experienced like brake failures and stuff, which was not really good, especially at a street circuit. But it is normal stuff. But then at the second season, we also experienced some mechanical failures, which weren't that good. So we got a PPNS. But I believe, I don't even honestly know where I finished the second season.
Yeah. So what came after the two years with the Indian Racing League?
Well, after that, the next year, which was actually, was it this?
Was
It was
last year.
2024.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, 2024. I got into the Formula Regional Americas series, which was a lot. It was really, really cool. It was a good experience and just learning, you know, it is definitely a lot like learning the car in that kind of like aspect of like competition because they're so competitive. The guys are like a lot, like, but it's really cool learning, as well as with a really good team. It's really helpful. And to have the team principal being a woman as well. So she actually supports me and she understands what I'm going through as well, because like mentally, I would say like women go through different things in racing than guys. So it's different to like overcome certain things, like after a crash, how we overcome the pain of a crash, basically. But yeah, the year it was really cool going into Formula Regional. That was my goal since karting. I've always wanted to go to Formula Regional Americas. That was my top goal. I thought that'd be so cool.
So which team were you with?
Crossing Kiwi Motorsports.
Okay. And who is the team principal?
So it's Tina Larson. She also raced actually. She's Canadian and New Zealand, and then Gary, her husband, he's
Okay.
from New Zealand.
Do you find that the Canadian it's easier to find Canadian sponsors to do this? Because I know young drivers here. I mean, it's hard to find sponsorship for everybody, but I feel like maybe that the businesses in Canada are more into trying to support the younger drivers trying to come up. Is my perception right or wrong?
It's quite hard, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
for example, one of my goals for sponsors was actually Lululemon. It still is. And being a Canadian company, I thought it would be perfect, like a perfect mix. My dad actually knew one of the guys from Lululemon because he does custom cabinets. That's what his company is. So my dad actually knew the guy because he worked with him. Um, but they don't really do that stuff. I don't know. They don't see something in it, or I don't know what it is, but there's something with, I don't know, being a big brand. I don't know, they don't do those things or something, but it was really hard. So we're just trying to. I used to last year. I would well, actually the year before that, 2023, I would do all my sponsor kind of things myself and with my dad. But this year, well, last year we actually got an agent to help us with, and he helps me a lot. He's gotten sponsors for guys that are in IndyCar right now, so um, he has really good connections, and it kind of takes stuff off of me because like I should be honestly focusing on racing, as well as like the marketing aspect as well, instead of thinking about like how much money I actually need to get to go racing this year. Like even this year is pretty hard to like think like how much money I do need and how much money I have right now, and like of course I want to be racing different things at a higher level, but I just don't have the budget to go there, right? Because it's just costs so much.
Yeah. Let's talk about that a little bit more in just a second. Let me take a moment to thank the people that helped me do this. So don't go anywhere. Want to tell you, everyone, of course, that raceschool.com is our sponsor. It is our presenting sponsor for Inside the SCCA. It is great to have them on board with us this year. They, of course, are based out at Buttonwillow Raceway Park. And, of course, we have 2 tracks out there now, which is going to be very nice for them and all of us. We just debuted the new track, the circuit at Buttonwillow. But RacingWire.com, one of the top schools in California. People come from all over the U.S. To do their schools at RacingWire.com, Fast Lane Race School. And one of the reasons, of course, we've got great weather in Southern California in most weekends, except for the last weekend. We won't talk about that one. You can get your full competition license through Fast Lane, defensive driving schools, high performance driving days, lots of different opportunities for great schools with those folks. They've got a pretty unique way of teaching as well, which is pretty awesome. You can check them out at RacingWire.com. Of course, Solo Performance Specialties is one of the great places around the country where you can get all the stuff you need for your solo competition needs. Dave and his crew are fantastic folks. Check them out. It's, Solo Performance Specialties. And then, of course, Ray Esports is the official sim racing league of Inside the SCCA. They have races on Tuesdays and over the weekends. Great league to be involved with them, and they have a lot of connections to the SCCA. Dave Pinterick, he is a GT1 and a Spec MX5 driver. William R. Pinterick and Associates is his company, and they are there to help you out with all of your financial planning needs. Dave is a great guy and a racer, so check him out as well. And then finally, RaceKeeper. If you need a camera for your car, RaceKeeper is the place to go. We use RaceKeeper for all of the stuff that we do here on Inside the SCCA. All of the information for all of these great people who are helping us out is in our show notes. All right, back to our discussion here with Nicole Havrda and talking about her career. You mentioned before I stopped to thank everybody that you got yourself an agent. At what point in someone's career does the agent become a thing? Does an agent come after you? Do you go after an agent? How does that work?
Well, usually it's when you get to a certain point in racing and people start noticing you, and then they're like, we want to make money. Well, that's what they're there for, basically, to make money off of you.
Right.
Like they'll find a sponsor and then they'll take a percentage of that. But usually they do that like once you're sort of like you make a name of yourself, and they start noticing like, oh, we could get her a good sponsor and then take whatever 10% of it or something. Especially if they get like $1 million sponsor, they'll take like whatever 10% of it,
right,
or 15 or whatever people take nowadays. But that's basically how it works. That's how Hein kind of got here as well, and we kind of knew him as well. So it was like personal stuff.
Very cool. You also spent a little time in Spain doing some testing with the F1 Academy. That's a pretty giant step up.
Yeah, that's kind of out of the blue in the way. Like, I remember going into 2023, I tried to get into the F1 Academy. That was my thing, and then we realized that I wasn't really experienced enough. I just needed a year of racing competitively in Formula 3 in America, and then just maybe try for next year. But yeah, it's definitely a lot to learn. The cars are different, the teams are different, all the language barriers and stuff. Because it's definitely hard when the team doesn't speak English or they just work differently. But it's definitely really cool just like traveling to Spain But definitely a lot of money to
I
go to
bet.
Spain
I
for
bet.
whatever 2 weeks. Yeah.
What how does one get a test in the Formula One Academy? Is that an invite? Do you have to write some letters, knock on some doors?
Well, obviously connection,
Right.
but you can also just, it is so easy with the European teams. Like if you're a racer and you just call, and if you have the money
Right.
and you call up a FIA Formula 3 team in Europe, and say, hey, we want to come test with you here, this date, whatever. We have this much money to put down. They'll be like, oh yeah, let's go for sure. Like, but you have to pay a certain price, right? Because it's so expensive. Like a weekend testing is like freaking 13 grand, right?
Right.
No, 30. I don't know actually how much it is. It's quite a lot. But yeah, it's definitely, they'll just say, yes, whatever price it is. That's kind of, you do see that a lot going up the levels, like up the ladder. You see like the really good drivers, but they have money coming with them.
Right.
Like, I don't want to be rude, but like Lance Stroll, for example, like he paid his way into Formula One. Don't get me wrong, he's a good driver. But he did pay his way there, right? And a certain um amount of money will actually get you to Formula One or
Right.
like IndyCar, GT cars as well.
It is kind of a, if you've got the money, you can make the
Yeah.
moves a lot faster than if you're just trying to do it on talent alone.
Mhm.
That's also helpful to have the agent to help you get the money to be able to give yourself those opportunities. So that's always kind of the hard part, because there's a lot of fantastic race cars drivers out there who either don't have the means to do it on their own and don't have the skills to be able to go find the money. And as I'm sure you've learned, being able to find the money is probably more important than being a good race car driver, right?
Exactly. Like you can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't have money, you're not making it.
Yeah, yeah. So we're coming up on 2025. What are the 2025 plans?
I can tell you one. I'm doing Formula Regional Americas this year again, with Q and Motorsports again. Just for like to have more seat time as well as we own the car, like my family owns the car. So it's just easier. I do more testing. It's just cheaper for us, as well, and it just makes it easier, more seat time, all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But alongside that, I'm doing a bigger series. I cannot announce it yet, but I did sign the contract a few days ago. So it is pretty big. Hopefully, it is releasing soon. I'm not sure what the date is yet, but mid-February time. But I will be gone a lot, with all the racing around the world as well as the American racing. It will be a lot.
That's awesome news. Awesome news. So you're going to a test right now. Is that for the FR America's car?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. And where are you going to be testing at?
In Dallas, there's actually a private members track,
Got it.
that Q Motorsports. They have a garages there, so it's just easier. And I can drive whenever I want. So we're going there. And the car is located there as well, so it's just makes it easier.
Sure. Sure. So the big announcement when it comes, you'll have to make sure you share it with me so I can put it on the show notes and talk about it in one of the next episodes.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, it should be coming out mid-February. I'm honestly not sure yet. We have to fly there, and then we'll be announced.
Cool. Cool. What else is new? How are you in school? What's the what do you do when you're not at the racetrack?
Honestly, just my work. I try to, I also I try to have a life as well. So I work to actually make money to go do, fun things
Right.
here and there. Um, which makes it a little easier. I work for my parents' company because I can't actually get a job because I travel way too much. Like I'm gonna be away from home for like 4 months straight. So I can't really have a normal job, but I do not go to school. I graduated from high school last year, and then I'm not sure about college yet. I'm thinking about it, but I don't have time for it. And the budget, I just try to put all the money towards racing mainly. So it's just like trying to, just focus on racing, doing all of my marketing stuff, everything else. That's basically, and also going to the gym on the simulator all the time. So it's just also that kind of doing all that kind of stuff.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, it all takes money, right?
Yeah, everything.
Yeah. How much sim racing do you do?
A lot.
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time on there. I'll just be on there with friends and stuff and other racers. And my brother actually, he's into racing like cars as well. So he'll actually just come on the sim with me, just out of nowhere. He'll just be like, "Hey, let's go on the sim," and I'll already be there, and we'll just do some, practicing or races. We'll just have fun with it as well. But I do try to do like the tracks that I'm doing. So like coming into the Formula 3, the Formula Regional Americas Championship, I'm practicing NOLA, which is in New Orleans,
Yep.
and then Road America will be the next one. So just trying to practice those two ahead of time. Racecraft and that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah. What do you? Uh, uh, I've lost my ability to speak. Do you do iRacing? Do you do Assetto Corsa? What's your platform of choice?
Yeah, so I do iRacing a lot. It's kind of my favorite one because it's just simple. I can race against my friends. It's
Right.
easy. But I hate that on iRacing there aren't all the racetracks that I need.
Right.
So like I'll have to go on Assetto just to find some racetracks, download them and all that kind of stuff. So it does frustrate me because I'm going from one to the other and it's just like I can't race with my friends on one and then it's just the whole thing. I just use Assetto just to practice, like the track, not even the car, just the track.
Right.
But on iRacing, I just have fun with it. I do it with my friends, and then do all the races and stuff because it's just. I think that's a bigger platform currently.
Cool. Yeah. No, it is definitely a bigger platform, and you're right. It is so much. It's just a simple click a couple clicks and you're ready to go. So that makes it easy. Dr. Matthew Hudson is in the chat. He asks, "Is the big announcement about Daytona?" You're not sharing with us, so I'm gonna guess you're not gonna answer.
No, not Daytona. I can say no to that one.
Okay.
I've been honestly, I think one of my goals, like in racing, is definitely to do like the 24-hour Le Mans or Daytona 24. Those are my two like racing goals, like out of like Formula cars. Like I obviously want to make it for like Formula One or IndyCar, but those are my like, sports car goals or an LMP car or something.
Sure. Well, there's lots of opportunities if you can get pointing in the right direction for all of those different things. So, all right, this is the point where you get to say thank you to a bunch of people because I'm sure you've got tons to thank. Who's on the list this year?
Yeah, starting obviously, I always had to say it. My parents do everything for me. They're my biggest supporters, alongside obviously my sponsors. But of course, I thank my parents. They do so much for me. Like my dad's always traveling with me, going through all my mixed emotions at the racetrack as well, as well as my sponsors, Colonial Countertops, and then Valley Kitchens as well, and then a lot of others. As well as my agent, he does a lot. He actually, I had an older sim before, for like I think I had my sim for like 5 years or something. It was just a little sim. It wasn't anything crazy. And then my agent, he actually was like, "You need a good sim. You need to be racing against like the pros. You need to have a good one." So he got me a really really good sim, with all the new stuff, like the really gorgeous steering wheel and all that kind of stuff. So I really thank him for that. That's a big help in in racing, my career and stuff. Having all the good stuff really helps.
Definitely. Well, Nicole, good luck on the season coming up, and we'll be watching. How can we watch the FR Americas? Is that streamed somewhere?
Yeah, so it's on YouTube. It's just Formula Regional Americas. I think it's under Speed Tour.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's under there as well as my Instagram. So Nicole.Havrda, pretty basic. And then once I announce my other thing, it'll be also on YouTube, probably on somewhere else as well.
Sure. Cool. Before I let you go, I always do this. I always think I've done ask questions and another one pops in my brain. You do a ton of social media stuff. And first of all, how much does anyone help you with that, or do you do it all yourself?
I did have a point in my career where I had someone helping me with it, but I I don't know. Like, I don't find it as personal. Like, she would take over and she would post for me and she would comment for me and stuff. And it wasn't really personal. Like, I know it would help me with my time. And, like, I just had more free time to myself to focus on other things. But I do like when my social media is more personal and I'm kind of like, commenting what I want to say, also messaging people. Like, I'll get DMs on Instagram and I'll just message them back, even though, like, some people won't do that, but I just feel like more of like a connection. I just like making it like friends. Like, I don't know. I just feel like it's different when you're taking care of your own social media, even though it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's definitely a lot. Like making all the reels, like trying to post like 2 reels a day and, making all the posts and all the content is really hard to find as well. But yeah.
How important is having a social media presence for sponsors and to be able to give them some additional return on their investment?
Very important. A lot of people actually look for it. Like, they'll ask you like how many followers do you have, and then they'll just base it off that. So like, it's some sponsors do look for that, but then it's mostly like collaborations. So like on Instagram, I'll get like people reaching out because I have a certain amount of followers, and they'll be like, hey, can we send you like, for example, like I'm working with a company. They're called SimForge. They sell pedals, like sim racing pedals.
Right.
And they'll just DM me and they'll say, hey, we got a set of pedals for you. And they send it out to me. And that's actually one of the pedals I'm currently using. They're actually my favorite. I tried all pedals. I tried the Fanatec pedals. They do not feel as real as you'd expect from Fanatec. I do like their, what is it? I like their, not the wheel, but I just forgot what it's called, the box.
Right.
Like, yeah, I like that from them. But the pedals I have from SimForge, which they literally just reached out on me on Instagram, just because I had a certain amount of followers. So it does mean a lot to them. And then they send that stuff that's like worth like, $1,000 or something, and they just want like you to market it, right?
Sure.
Just because you have followers.
That's cool. Nicole, have fun. I know you got a plane to catch and going to be testing this weekend down in Texas. We will keep an eye on everything throughout the year, and good luck with all that.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
All right, that's going to do it for another episode of Inside the SCCA, presented by RaceSchool.com. If you like what you heard and what you saw, subscribe to the RacingWire Podcast Network and the Racing Network on YouTube. It would also be great if you leave a comment, especially if it's a good one. You can follow us on social media to find out who our next guest is. Leave questions. On Twitter, it's @RaceAnnouncer. There's a new Inside the SCCA every week. I'm Brian Bielanski. Have yourself a fantastic weekend. Stay safe and go play with cars.
Hi, I'm Dorsey Schrader, and this is Inside the SCCA.